Welcome to this explainer on the science of thinking. Have you ever wondered why sitting down to learn a new skill, studying for an exam, or even just trying to break a bad habit feels so incredibly exhausting? Well, you are absolutely not alone. Today, we're diving into why our brains are inherently lazy, the fascinating mechanics going on inside our heads, and how we can actually force our minds to learn. Okay, let's look at our roadmap for today's explainer, chunking down our topics so your brain can easily digest the journey ahead. We'll start with the avoidance of thinking, meet our two internal mental characters, look at the mechanics of memory, explore the literal physical cost of thought, and finally, figure out how we can hack our lazy brains. All right, section 1, the avoidance of thinking. We're starting with a universally frustrating reality. For most of us, deep thinking is, well, it's kind of unpleasant. We actively try to avoid it whenever possible because it's mentally and physically uncomfortable. To show you what I mean, I want you to listen to this classic math problem. It's been given to thousands of college students. A toy bat and a toy ball cost $1.10 in total. The bat cost $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Take a quick second and see what answer immediately pops into your head.
Now what's wild here is that 10 cents is the answer almost everyone instinctively guesses. Your brain probably just screamed 10 cents. But wait, let's think about it for just a second. If the ball costs 10 cents and the bat costs $1 more, making the bat $1.10, the total cost would be $1.20.
The real answer? It's 5 cents. A 5-cent ball plus $1.05 bat gives us exactly $1.10. Now, the point of this question isn't that it's some insanely difficult math. Literally anyone who guesses 10 cents could have easily checked their math in about 2 seconds. But they don't. We just don't bother checking our mental shortcuts because, honestly, doing so requires real deliberate effort. Section 2. Meet Gun and Drew. To really wrap our heads around these mental blind spots, we're going to model the brain as two totally distinct characters. Psychologists formally call these System 1 and System 2, but let's give them some personality. These characters brilliantly illustrate our two operating systems. Let's call the first one Drew. Drew represents your conscious, step-by-step thinking voice. He's the one who follows instructions and catches mistakes. But here's the catch. Drew is extremely lazy and incredibly slow. Then we have Gun. Gun is your rapid, automatic background processor. He's blazing fast, constantly filtering copious amounts of sensory information and just filling in the gaps without you even realizing it's happening. Here is how they split the workload. When you're asked to calculate a complex math problem like 13 times 17, poor Drew is the one who has to painstakingly do the work. He has to hold the numbers, multiply, carry the one. It totally exhausts him. However, if you were just casually glancing at digits on a page, Gun is the one instantly recognizing their shapes before you even consciously try to decode them. Moving on to part 3, the mechanics of memory. The absolutely crucial thing to understand here is how these two characters interact with our internal memory structures to process the world around us, because honestly, their capabilities completely dictate how we learn. When we look at how this works, Gun basically operates using your vast long-term memory. He's got VIP access to the massive library of experiences you've built up over your entire life. Drew, on the other hand, is stuck navigating your working memory. He has to deal exclusively with what is happening right here, right now, in your conscious mind. And here is the terrifying bottleneck for Drew. Psychology tells us that Drew's working memory can only hold on to a maximum of 4 or 5 novel pieces of information at any given time. Seriously, that's it. If you try to hold a string of 7 or 8 random, completely new numbers in your head, Drew simply drops them. His capacity is highly, highly restricted. So, how do we bypass this severe limitation? We use a neat little trick called chunking. This is how we bundle random data together. For example, the digits 7102 take up 4 whole slots in Drew's working memory. But if we reverse them to the year 2017, boom, it suddenly becomes just one single chunk. Learning is essentially the process of building bigger chunks through deliberate practice. When you first learn to tie your shoes or play an instrument, Drew is working in absolute overdrive. But with enough repetition, the chunk is formed, and Drew happily passes the task off to Gun's automatic long-term memory. You know, what we call muscle memory. All right, section 4, the physical cost of thought. Let's get into the literal physiological reality of what happens when we force Drew to actively work through unfamiliar information, because it is, quite literally, heavy lifting. I want you to try this add 1 task right now. It goes like this. I give you 4 digits, you wait 2 beats, and then you say each number back on a steady beat, but here's the trick, you add 1 to each digit. So if I say 7291, you would say 8302. Doing this forces Drew to hold numbers in his tiny working memory while manipulating them at the exact same time. If you actually try this, especially if you add 3 instead of 1, you'll feel some serious mental strain. And guess what? That strain isn't just an illusion. Researchers observed that when people perform this strenuous task, their bodies physically react. You can literally watch a person's pupils dilate as they do the add 1 task. Their heart rate goes up, they actually produce more sweat. But the second the task ends and they are just casually chatting with the experimenter, letting gun run on autopilot, their pupils shrink right back down. Deep thought comes with a real physical cost. And this brilliant contrast explains exactly why changing our habits takes such agonizing effort. Think about someone moving from North America to Australia. In North America, flipping a light switch up means on. Gun has automated this for decades. In Australia, down means on. Even though Drew consciously knows the new rule, Gun's automatic programming takes over, and you will literally spend years flipping lights off when you walk into a room. Or think about Dustin's famous backwards bicycle with the reversed steering. It takes months of painful mental effort from Drew to override Gun's automated riding habits. Finally, Section 5, hacking our lazy brains. Let's look at how external forces, ranging from educators to some very clever advertisers, are actively using this exact science to hack our mental laziness and force Drew right into the driver's seat. Remember that bat and ball test where almost everyone guesses 10 cents? When researchers printed that exact same test in a clear, easy-to-read font, a whopping 85% of incoming college students got at least one question wrong. But when they printed it in a hard-to-read, washed-out font with terrible contrast, errors plummeted to just 35%. Why on earth does that happen? Because the confusing text stopped Gunn from instantly jumping to his automated conclusion. He couldn't read it easily, so he had to wake up Drew. And once lazy Drew was forced to step in and actually decode the font, he did the math correctly. Advertisers totally use this tactic too. Normally, ads are incredibly simple, so Drew doesn't have to work. But Gunn has gotten so good at filtering out standard ads that we barely even see them anymore. Enter this bizarre Australian insurance campaign. It literally just said "un." No logo, no jingle. Then it expanded to weird phrases like "undrive through the car wash" and "unbreak dance." Because it made absolutely no sense, Gunn's automatic ad filtering just broke down. He had to hand it off to Drew, forcing people to consciously pay attention and puzzle out what the ad was actually for. A real game changer. Similarly, we are seeing this exact realization completely reshape education. Universities are actively shifting away from traditional passive lectures. Why? Because lectures overload Drew's tiny working memory with too much novel information way too quickly, so students just tune out and let Gunn passively stare at the wall. In their place, educators are rolling out interactive workshops and peer instruction. These formats force students to answer questions and manipulate data, ensuring that Drew does the strenuous, pupil-dilating work required to actually build new memory chunks. So, the absolutely crucial takeaway from this explainer is that true learning requires immense effort. It requires fighting through the confusion, skipping the easy GPS routes you can actually learn the map, and forcing your conscious brain to do the heavy lifting. Next time you sit down to learn something new and you feel that immediate urge to quit because it's just too hard, remember, that discomfort, that's just the feeling of your brain actually working. So the question is, will you embrace the discomfort of deliberate thought?